How are you?
Good morning, doing all right. Can you hear me? Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm told audio is clear and I see a bunch of people in here. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself, get started. I've got a few slides up front to just sort of explain what we're doing, and then we're going to get into the activity itself.
That
So
sounds, oh, sorry. Yeah, that sounds awesome, Carl. I was just going to let you know I am here if you need me. It's great to see you, by the way. This is David.
uh, yeah, thank you for putting the event together and for having us. And yeah.
Well, we appreciate you. Well, I will be here. I'm going to mute myself out. I just wanted to take a chance to say hello, and we really appreciate you.
Okay, well, thank you. So, we're really grateful here in Albuquerque to have the National Nuclear Museum. It's really a fantastic facility that represents some of the history and the technology that was born in this area. And so hopefully for those of you who are local, you know about the museum, and for those who are not local, you find an opportunity to come visit us here in sunny Albuquerque and visit the Nuclear Museum. So I am here today representing the Trinity section of the American Nuclear Society. And my name, of course, is Carl Willis. Um, I'll provide a little introduction here. So let me go ahead and see if I can share my screen. I think it's working just fine. So let's see. There we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, the American Nuclear Society is who I'm representing today, but also I'll give a big shout out to the Nuclear Engineering Department and the School of Engineering at the University of New Mexico, where I'm a faculty member. So the American Nuclear Society, professional society for nuclear engineers, nuclear technologists, but the local sections are responsible for sort of the cohesion of the professional community in the local sense, and the Trinity section represents northern and central New Mexico. So this is some historically interesting territory for nuclear, because of course the birth of the nuclear explosives happened here. But in any case, we represent folks from Sandia National Laboratories, Los Alamos, Kirtland Air Force Base, the University of New Mexico, and the entire spectrum of businesses that have grown up in this ecosystem. So we're a very busy local chapter, and I encourage anybody who's interested in becoming a member or finding out more about what we do or engaging in our outreach activities to please follow the link here and get in touch with us. A little personal introduction. As mentioned, my name's Carl Willis. I am on the faculty at UNM. I'm the chief reactor supervisor. We have a little 5-watt nuclear reactor out there. But what's not mentioned on this slide is how I got into nuclear science and engineering as a career field. And I think some of that background's probably in order because of the presentation you're about to see, which is sort of a do-it-yourself home project. And so I was a nuclear hobbyist for many years. I grew up playing with Geiger counters and building little electronics projects and looking for radioactive stuff, collecting radioactive stuff, doing projects like the one you're about to see. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity during the pandemic to get involved in home nuclear science. And if anybody is worried about safety, I'm happy to talk about that. But the fact of the matter is, this is a good, safe, rewarding activity, and it can take you some pretty interesting places, especially if you have career ambitions later on. You will have come to that place with a lot of background, but my overall point here is that we are not talking about the ivory tower or secret government labs or anything. We're talking about stuff you can do at home. And so the presentation I want to show you today is something you can do at home that's eminently approachable for people wanting to have some fun with the radiation sciences in the comfort of their own home. So anyway, it's a little bit of a personal introduction. And one of the things that the American Nuclear Society tries to do is point out that radiation technologies, nuclear technologies are all around us. They're an integral part of our lives. And these applications are often some of the most beneficial, even though we may not recognize that we are dealing with a radiation or nuclear technology. So medical imaging, radiation therapies is a huge space that nuclear technology operates in. And of course, this will be very proximate to the presentation today. Nuclear power is responsible for about 20% of the electricity in the United States. So we keep the lights on. In the foreign policy space, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. So the Iran nuclear deal, you'll probably hear a lot about that in the coming weeks because there's an attempt to reopen dialogue with the Iranians. So to have expertise in that realm of foreign policy, the weapons proliferation issues and so forth, we need nuclear engineers and scientists. And so these are just a few of the spaces in which nuclear technology and radiation technologies are important. And that image over on the right side happens to be the first X-ray image ever made of a human. This happens to be a picture made by Wilhelm Röntgen, a German who discovered X-rays. And one of the questions that came up, I think in the chat earlier, was who invented X-rays? And they weren't so much invented as discovered. And Wilhelm Röntgen is the person who discovered not only X-rays themselves, but also some of their properties that make them interesting. So this happens to be a photo of his wife's hand, and you can see the wedding band on her finger, and you can also see the bones in the finger. So this is a good point to jump off into the activity today, because you're going to see some similar images made using technology that would have been understandable in Wilhelm Röntgen's time. The electromagnetic spectrum is where X-rays belong. They are a form of light, but we're all pretty familiar with the rainbow, the Roy G. Biv part of the electromagnetic spectrum, because that is the part that our eyes actually perceive. So if you disperse white light through a prism or raindrops or something else that's a dispersive element, you're going to get this sort of breakdown of colors, and the long wavelengths are represented by red, or the low energies or long wavelengths, however you want to conceptualize that. The short wavelengths, high energies, are represented by violet in this spectrum. But it's important to realize that on either side of the rainbow, above the or below the red frequencies or above the purple frequencies, there are plenty of other parts of this spectrum that we cannot see. So on the red side, we have infrared. This is the domain of night vision cameras and remote control signals and stuff like that. And then on the high energy end, of course, we have ultraviolet, which is what gives us sunburns. And beyond ultraviolet, we have X-rays. And X-rays are, of course, invisible to the eye, but they have distinctly different properties than visible light. So in passing through matter, X-rays respond to the density of electrons in the matter. And this is very different from the way that other light behaves, and it gives rise to those interesting properties that Wilhelm Röntgen discovered, namely that X-rays will be stopped by the dense parts, the bony parts of his wife's hand, for example, but they'll pass through the soft tissues. So this is just a look at the electromagnetic spectrum and where we're going to be looking today. So obviously we're pretty familiar with sources of visible light. The sun is a great one. The lights that we have are either incandescent or fluorescent or maybe LED. So there are different technologies for producing visible light. The technologies for producing X-rays are a little bit different. So where do X-rays come from? There are a couple different sources, but what we're going to look at today is called Bremsstrahlung, another German word owing to the historical origins of these technologies, but it means braking radiation. The radiation released when a charged particle accelerates or decelerates very quickly. So we're going to use electricity in this demonstration to make electrons move very fast, actually substantially the speed of light. And when these electrons are suddenly stopped in something, a metal electrode, for instance, we get X-rays. And this is the process of Bremsstrahlung. This is an electron slowing down very suddenly and releasing this light that we can't see. There are other ways that X-rays are made. Characteristic X-rays are those characteristic of the atoms that they come from, and those have discrete energies. But the Bremsstrahlung spectrum is a wide, broad spectrum of X-ray light. If you could see it like we can see the rainbow colors, it would look almost probably whitish. So this is what we're going to be doing today. And just as an intro to the equipment that you're going to see me use, I did mention that this is a home accessible sort of project. The electrostatic generator is a hand cranked one, and you can buy these various places, but here's an example one on Amazon, and I see the price listed for 120 bucks or so. I actually bought mine for 75, and you can find them even cheaper. I have some that are in the $45 range, and they seem to work just fine. I think the build quality is probably not as nice. But this is what we're working on for a power supply. And we're going to turn a crank on this guy to generate some high voltage electricity. The other thing here is we need something for those electrons to run around and pick up speed and run into stuff. And if we just run the high voltage machine in the air, we've got air in the way of those electrons. And so they can pick up some speed and they can spark through the air, but they're not going to be achieving those high energies. And so we need something that has empty space in it, or a vacuum. And we're going to be using vacuum tubes. And a lot of the kids these days will have no idea what a vacuum tube is. But these were the essential building blocks of electronics for most of the 20th century, and they're still widely available. So if you want to get the type of tube that I'm using, there are a bunch for sale on eBay, and they tend to sell for anywhere between $1 and $5 if you like the 2x2 type of vacuum rectifier. But anyway, so two pieces in this generator. There's a Wimshurst machine and there's a vacuum tube. And now I'm going to go ahead and we'll get back out of the slides. And I just want to show you the equipment here on the table. So I've got my Wimshurst machine, and this is a hand crank generator. When I turn the crank, it's going to generate electricity, but it actually needs a little bit of help. This is not a true triboelectric static machine. It requires a little tiny bit of charge to get going. And the way I do that looks really funny, but it's by far the easiest way to do this for demonstration purposes. I'm going to borrow some electrons from my hair by rubbing them off onto a piece of PVC pipe. And then I'm going to put those electrons near the machine, and they are going to create a induced charge on the little segments of the machine, so that when I turn the crank, I begin to generate electricity. Okay, so I mentioned our vacuum tube. This is what the tube looks like just by itself. This is just a one that I'm not using, but I have my vacuum tube here hooked up across the poles of the machine, and it's just sitting there. There really are only two pieces to this X-ray generator. We got the Wimshurst machine and we got the vacuum tube. That is how simple this apparatus is. You really don't need anything else, including wires, to hook it up. There are ways to improve this if you really want to get into it, but from my perspective, I wanted to make the point that this is a very, very simple device, and the simpler the better for the purposes of demonstration. So so that's what we got going on. Now, people are probably going to ask about safety. What kind of radiation do we get from this device? And so I have my calibrated survey meter here. And because Albuquerque is such a big nuclear town, there's a place here in town where I can go take these things, get them calibrated, and verify what my radiation dose is here doing this demonstration. But we talk in terms of keeping doses as low as reasonably achievable. The fact of the matter is, with the imaging technology that we're going to use, the radiation that we're producing is such a low level that I am not really concerned about it. I have my meter just to check on what those levels are, but we're going to be producing radiation in the millirem per hour type of range, and our detector, our image intensifier thing here is so sensitive that level of radiation is going to produce good images for us. I guess I should qualify that. The images you'll see are going to be representative of the state of X-ray generating and detecting technology from a long time ago. Modern medical imaging is direct radiography and stuff like that is done with very capable systems. They just happen to cost thousands of dollars. So again, the trade-off here is what can you do at home? What makes sense for a hobbyist looking to get into to do something like this? So our image intensifier, this makes some light that our camera picks up. The light that we're going to be looking at comes from a process called scintillation. The X-rays are going to come in here, create some light. This thing's basically a light amplifier, and then I've got a second camera. There may be a few glitches with the second camera when the high voltage is running, because we're creating a disruptive electrical discharge, and that tends to create a lot of electronic noise. So sometimes my camera gets knocked out. I apologize in advance if that happens. I'll just plug it back in and we'll get back in the saddle and keep going. But that's our technology. So what I want to do now, I'm going to go give you a live view of the image intensifier while I crank this machine. Let me see if there's still some. Are we still charged? I think we might be. Yeah, we're charged. We're good. Okay, so I'm going to go pop over to my other camera, and we'll take a live look at what's coming from that screen. So I'm going to get my share screen, content from second camera, and this should do it. So what you're seeing right now should be a black screen. However, we should be seeing some little sparkles on it, and that is background radiation in my detector. And I'm going to go ahead and crank my generator and produce some X-rays, and we should see a bright field in our screen. And now if I put my hand in front of the screen, we should see an image that's very similar to what Wilhelm Röntgen made way back in the, let's see, I'm gonna switch my camera. And we should come back. Okay, so you should have seen the bones or whatever. I'm not an anatomist, by the way, so you'll have to forgive my my lack of. I think these are carpals. I believe that's correct. Anyway, you should have seen the bony sort of image caused by X-rays stopping in the electron dense regions of my tissues and passing through the the less dense parts. So that's what Wilhelm Röntgen saw when he was playing with X-rays back in the 1890s, and it gave birth to the modern medical uses of X-rays. I see I've got some stuff going on in the chat, so I'm going to check the chat because it's a live demo and we can see if people have questions. Let's see. Hi. I know it was super cool. They were like light green and dark green. Yeah, so I mean, the color is green because the scintillation light that is produced by the cesium iodide crystals in the front of this thing comes out sort of greenish, or I should say the zinc sulfide, the little screen in the back of it is what's responsible for the color, and it is green. So that's a good point. Okay, I see a lot of wow, cool, awesome. Okay, here's a question. What's that tube again? The vacuum tube that I'm using is called a type 2X2, and I've tried this with a lot of different vacuum tubes, but this one happens to be widely available, dirt cheap, and generates a fair bit of X-rays. And so that's the one I recommend. But you can do this with any number of vacuum tubes. You just want one that has an anode terminal at one end of the tube and then your cathode pins at the other. Because if you have a tube where they're close together, the machine's just going to spark. This machine generates about 75,000 volts, and you have to remember that air will eventually become a conductor of electricity, break down, and yeah. Sam, you got your hand up. Let's see. Somebody. Oh, okay. Well, I'll keep going here. Fantastic. All righty. So what I've got today, I got a whole bunch of stuff. Let me see if I can bring this up here so you can see it. I've got a big, a big box full of all, oh, there it all goes, full of all different things. You'll see I've got everything from some little electronic devices to power cords to some household stuff, to some pieces of fruit, I think there's a bottle of pills in there, some tools. It's just a bunch of stuff. And what I figured we would do today is we're just going to go through a bunch of this stuff and take some pictures of it. And to give you a sense of what taking a picture with this is like, I'm going to take a static picture of my hand and we'll watch it on the other camera. And then we're going to go, I'll take your request to do some of these other ones in the box. So I think that's how we'll play. And I'm glad that's not what they did when I broke. Yeah, so I mean, modern imaging technology is very competent and very precise, and you're going to get beautiful images, and you don't have to worry about getting shocked by the high voltage generator. Whereas when I'm doing this, very frequently get zapped. So we've come a long way, and yeah. So be thinking about what you want to take a picture of. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a photo of my hand. So we'll go back and bounce into the other camera view here. And I should have this set for a 2-second delay, and then it's going to count down, I believe, 10 seconds. And we'll take an integrated picture over 10 seconds. So let me get my machine cranking, make sure we're charged up. And then I'm going to hit my 2-second, 1 second, 0. Okay, so now we got a 10-second exposure. I'm going to crank the machine. My hand is in place in front of the screen. And okay, shutter's closed. So now I can come back to my camera and I'm going to click the view button, which should give us a, yeah, so this is a picture we just took. As I said, I don't know a whole lot about anatomy, so the more anatomically inclined folks can probably tell me, you know, if these are tarsals or carpals or metacarpals or whatever, but they're bones, right? So anyway, and again, I feel comfortable doing this because a dose of a tiny fraction of a millirem is not one that concerns me greatly. So I'm gonna, okay, we'll pop back to my head view. Okay. And okay, so we got a whole bunch of stuff in here, and it represents all different sorts of applications for X-rays. So any suggestions, and I apologize for the noise, anybody have a particular suggestion for stuff they want to see that might be in this, or do you want me to just pick something? Apple, somebody wants to see an apple, somebody wants to see a pill bottle. I have 2 votes now for apple. Okay, I have 2 apples in here. There's one of them, and there's the other one. So I'm going to do this apple first, and then we're going to come back and do this apple, and I want you to tell me the difference between them. So to do an apple, I got to set it up. I've got a little box here. to make sure that it's right in the right place. Okay. Is one radioactive? I wish. I've eaten radioactive apples, but only near Chernobyl, where they grow some lovely apples in that part of the world, and they do pick up some cesium, but apples do not keep, unfortunately. So we're going to take an image of this apple. It'll be the same thing. I'll get the generator going, and then I'm going to we'll do a 10-second count, and we'll look at the screen. So here we go. 2, 1, and now we're taking our picture, and then we'll go look at it after it is done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so let me pop back into my other camera view, and I think we've got to go here to see it. Okay, so apple. I guess what I would say about this is there are no big surprises. It just looks like a, you're seeing a pretty uniform piece of fruit. But what I want you to pay attention to, let's look at that second apple. Let's see if that one's, what did I do with it, by the way? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's try the second apple, and I want you to tell me if you would eat this apple or not. So there's my second apple, and okay, let's do the same thing, except this time I'm gonna remember to give us this view from this camera. I'm gonna put it back in the live view, and we'll get cranking here on this apple. 2 seconds, 1, shutter is open, and then we got a 10-second countdown. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we've now finished, and we're going to pop back into the this view. Would you eat this apple? No. Why? Why would we not eat this apple? No way. Right. So yeah, so people are picking up on what's in here. This apple has a razor blade in it. I happened to put that in there. It didn't come that way from the store, okay? But back when I was a kid and it was Halloween, there was a sort of what you might call a moral panic about creepy people putting needles and razor blades into the candy and the apples and what have you. And one of the applications for x-rays at that time was that the hospitals would let kids come in with their pillowcase of candy or whatever, and they run it through the x-ray machine and take a look at what was in there to reassure mostly the parents that there were not foreign objects in the food. In this case, I'm not aware of any situation where this actually occurred, where people were putting razor blades in apples or whatever. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I want to show you that a perfectly good-looking apple, in fact, has something in it. And so this is a security application for X-rays. We're more familiar, perhaps, with the usage at the airport, for example. You take your luggage, they scan it. This keeps them from having to take apart your luggage piece by piece in order to, figure out if you've got contraband or weapons. So from the security space, X-rays are a real godsend because they allow us to look inside things for dense materials that signify weapons or contraband without having to take apart your luggage. So I'm going to try to remember not to eat more of that apple. Could be bad for me. Okay, so we had some other suggestions. Let me scroll around and see. Halloween terrors, yes. Somebody says, okay, pill bottle. We have, I think, 3 votes now for the pill bottle. Okay, let's look at a pill bottle. It'll be this guy. It happens to be, what is this? Loratadine, okay. Anyway, I'm gonna set it up right here on our box, and let's go let us take a look here. I need to put the camera back in live mode. Okay, there it goes. We'll start generating some X-rays. There we go. Now we're going to hit our 2, 1, 0. And now we're counting down. Shutters open. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. And we'll just let the high voltage bleed off there and pop back over into our oh my goodness, I kind of it's kind of blown out. Let me retake this one. I'm going to change the camera down to ISO 800 because that was that's actually what I would call overexposed. Let's try this again. I'm going to use that lower ISO setting and maybe just not crank quite as hard. Okay, 2, 1, 0. And now we're counting down. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, wait for the juice to bleed off, and then we'll pop over into the camera and take a look what we got. See, that's a better image, really. So you'll notice that it's upside down. That's just because of how the X-ray detector works. The image intensifier tube works by accelerating electrons from the scintillator that we talked about onto a little screen, and they cross over at a spot in the middle, and so you get an upside down image. Not a big deal, but you can see we have trouble seeing the bottle itself. So other than the cap, we can't really see the bottle, but we can see how many pills are in there. And so this is an example of another industrial use of X-rays, which is to determine how full things are. So a good example is the fill height of some liquid product, or the number of items in a solid product like the pill bottle. But X-rays and beta particles actually are used for this purpose, to gauge how much stuff is in a consumer product automatically while it's being filled at the factory. So that's the pill bottle. I guess in the same vein, let me see. Yeah, okay. Let me see if let's look at a liquid beverage and see if we can see how full that is. That might be interesting. So I'll do this one, and then I'm going to see what else people want to see. Okay, 2 votes for my phone. Very good. Okay, and yep. Okay, looks like people want to see the phone. We'll do the phone next. There's some fun stuff with the phone that has to. Anyway, we'll take a look at that one right after this. So I'm going to go back into my second camera view, turn the live view on, and let's try to take a picture of this partially filled liquid beverage container. 2, 1, and shutter is now open. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're done. Let's take a look. Let's pop over into the photo view. Okay, so I mean, this view is kind of interesting because you can actually see the wall of the aluminum can. You can see the outline of the wall. You can also see the liquid product in there. So if you were industrially filling these and you wanted to make sure that each one you were filling had the same volume, X-rays would be a viable technique. In case of product containers where visible light does not pass through the container wall. Okay, so looks like people want to see a phone, so we're going to get our phone out, and let's take a look at this guy. So it does happen to be on. Okay, so we've got the usual little trick of setting stuff up. Let me try to get this in a stable location. Actually, I tell you what, I'm going to tape the phone. I'm going to tape the phone up there this time. I think that might be the best way of doing it, maybe. Let's look at this. Let's do it this way. If it will let me, tell you what, this is a little awkward. So let me see if I can pull it out of the case. Yeah, there we go. Much better. All righty. We'll go like this. All righty. Phone. And let's move that temporarily. Okay, here we go. And I think my phone is pretty radiation hard. I don't think we're going to destroy it. So, oops, I need to remember to switch back here, turn this back on. And I'm going to go back up to the ISO 1600 setting. I think it's going to be better for a nice thick thing like a phone. Okay, 2, 1, and we're rolling. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All righty, let's see what we got here, if we can make any sense of it. Oh, okay. So phones, of course, are real dense. They try to pack as much stuff into these electronic packages as possible. But I can see a couple things going on. And unfortunately, I don't have a pointer on the screen. But there at the bottom of your view, you're going to see where the camera is. You can see the camera and its associated electronics, where the little circle is in the middle of the view. And then we've got a button over on the right side. And the big black thing that's up towards the top right is going to be the phone's battery, which is a very dense piece of matter for sure. But this is also an industrial application of X-rays, making sure that electronics are assembled properly. So if you have an X-ray image of a circuit board, for instance, you can look to see if the solder pads or the traces on that board are in the right place, doing the right thing. So it's an industrial application. It's very automated, but this is done a lot to make sure that your electronics are put together properly before they leave the factory. And so I think my phone is still going to be okay. Yeah, phone is still working just fine. That little tiny dose of radiation didn't do anything to it, which of course is normal. Alrighty, so I think we got a few more minutes. What do we got now? I think we're at like 9:52. So I think I can keep going till 10. So we're going to keep doing some X-ray pictures. Let me see what people want to see. So I should point out I've got some. Oh, well here no, nobody will ask for this because they don't know what it is. Maybe you know what it is. So obviously it is a cup, but it's got something in it. Somebody has guessed ice water. That's a very good guess. I hope you can hear that rattling around. I'll bring it, close to my lav mic. Let's see. Put the shaker ball in. Teeth. Somebody thinks I've got teeth in here. That'd be awesome. I guess that would be in line with the whole razor blade in the apple thing, of something sort of macabre. Somebody says marbles. Okay, so there's a bunch of guesses, and that's an alarming amount of teeth. I would agree. I don't own that many teeth. So I'm gonna, we'll take a look at what this is, and once people see it, I think some people will understand what it is. But this is just a fun one. So we'll set it up like that, and let's go ahead and go back into my live view, and we'll get charged up. I'm going to go back to ISO 800 because this is not heavy duty here. And it looks like we're going. Okay, 2, 1, 0. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's our picture. Oops, I forgot to turn the other camera on. Somebody guessed it's a whisk ball. let's see if we're correct here. Switch camera. Okay, so the folks who guessed that this was a whisk ball happened to be correct. But you can see that the guesses took a lot of different directions. People were thinking I was going to pour teeth out of this thing, but no. So yeah, it's one of these. I don't actually use this thing. My wife uses it some, but my understanding is this is to mix up like protein powder or something in the beverage. But yeah, so without the power of X-rays to see through this container, we would have no idea really what was in here. We wouldn't know if it were ice or teeth or something else entirely. So the fact that we can see inside stuff is to me, that's just the most mind-blowing thing about this. You can it's just endlessly entertaining. You can look inside all kinds of things. Let's see. I'm going to hold this up here again, point out some of what's left. And oh, Amy is a dental hygienist. If you need teeth for the demo, I might just have to take you up on that offer because I don't think I have that many teeth. I believe I have 4 teeth, and they're my wisdom teeth, and they didn't really even want to give me those way back in the day. Because they're human remains. Most of these things, I think, just go get incinerated because they're a biohazard. But let's point out someone else is in here. So we have, yep, we got a little remote control thing. We've got a black box that has tools in it, I think, but I don't know. We got a power strip. We have we've got a lighter. And there's some other electronic gadgets. There's a remote control. There's some other tools. There's some scissors. Let's just see if folks have some ideas. Somebody wants to do a power strip and somebody wants to do a lighter. Okay. So I got like a few minutes left. Let's do the lighter. Let's take a look at that because I think it'll be faster for me to tape it in place than the power strip. The power strip likes to run around a lot, and so there's our lighter. I'm going to set it up just like this, try to make sure it's going to stay down. Okay. And okay, yeah, people like the lighter. That's good. Let's take a look at the lighter then. All righty, we are ready to roll, and let's get some juice flowing. Okay, 1, 0. All right, shutters open, 8. And I'm turning very slowly because I can already see from the image that the lighter is going to be bright. I may, in fact, blow out this image. Okay, so let me go take a look here. Oh, yeah, okay. So as you can see, there's actually very little butane left in this lighter. If there were a lot of butane, just like the beverage that I was looking at earlier, you'd be able to see that liquid level. What we can see in there is the spring that holds the striker flint, the mish metal, against the striker wheel, and we can see that. Yeah, I mean the metal parts at the top of the lighter are sort of the most significant part, and then there's this sort of wick-like thing that runs down the center. And I think what this does is it conducts heat down into the liquid and helps evaporate it, helps build some partial pressure in the lighter, because especially in cold weather, butane does not have a real high partial pressure. I think it's boiling, but it's yeah. So anyway, let me pop back. I think we're about out of time. So yeah, I've got like a few seconds left. So guys, thank you very much for coming and looking at this. My contact info is in the presentation slides, or carlwillis@unm.edu. And on behalf of the American Nuclear Society and the Trinity section of the American Nuclear Society, really thank you for your interest, and look forward to working with you again in the future. If ever you need some outreach to classes or whatever, please let me know. All righty. And with that, I think my time's up, but if there are any quick questions in the comments, I will attempt to answer them. I love looking at all the things. The phone was super cool. I agree. You know, since I was a kid, I played around with X-rays and other radioactive stuff. I don't think there should be a lot of stigma with that. Safety is obviously important, but radiation is something we can measure. We know what its effects are. We can do this safely. We can do it legally. We can do it at home. We can have fun with it. We can build this expertise, and then we can go off into the world and professionally do just fascinating things. So can you give us an extra hour? Potentially, yeah. So I'm not with this event, of course, but please reach out to me, and I'd be you know, happy to interface with your organization and you know, find something fun to do on this or some other theme. But yeah.